Good evening. Welcome to the August 19th, 2024 meeting of the Yarmouth Board of Health. And just one note that this is a hybrid meeting, which means that people can participate from at home or wherever they are. The website has a lot of directions how you can zoom in, call in, and so on. So why don't we start with attendance? Eric, are you present?
Present.
Okay, Mary.
Present.
Okay, I'm Hillard, I'm present. Larry.
Present.
Okay, Charlie.
Present.
Okay, definitely a quorum. And perhaps, Jay, you have something you would like to share with us?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just on, certainly on behalf of the staff in the Health Department and really across all of Yarmouth, want to pass along our thoughts and prayers to the family of Mike Stone, who is the chair of the Select Board, has been a longtime member and a strong supporter in the community in so many different ways. We had, unfortunately, the sad news of his passing last week, and let the community understand that later this week on Thursday there'll be a wake and Friday funeral services. But Mike Stone was certainly a supporter for the Board of Health, the staff, and so many departments, and in so many ways, a tremendous loss. And just that we're thinking of his family and thoughts and prayers. Just that the community, if they're not aware, his obituary is posted on the website, and we're thinking of him.
Thanks, Jay.
Okay.
The first item on the agenda, as always, is the public comment. If someone would like to come forward here or from wherever they are, if they're zoomed in or called in before. Anyone? Any action on the magic wall there?
I think you're all set.
Okay, we can move on then. Okay, second item on the agenda is the update presentation on wastewater project and drinking water quality. I think Director Colby is here this evening, and there he is. Welcome. Appreciate you coming in.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Jeff Colby, the Public Works Director. Lori Rosala is here as well. The way we intend to break up this presentation is she'll deal with the water items. I'll deal with the wastewater items. She's been dealing with a significant water main break today, which is why she's on the phone. But we really appreciate you having us here. There's so many excellent things going on with regards to water treatment that the town is bringing online, wastewater treatment and collection systems. So there's a lot of good things to talk about. And you've had some great representation at our Water Resource Advisory Committee from the Board of Health. And Mary's your current representative and is very diligent in attending the meetings and is a good participant in that, that board. So with that said, we can jump right into the water items. We'll primarily want to focus on some of the things that are going on with the service line inventory and PFAS. Everyone's interested in PFAS these days. What we have done and what we are doing going forward. And then, of course, we'll talk about wastewater. We've got some exciting news with the groundwater discharge permit recently issued a final permit, which is great because we've been working on that for a long time. And the status of the contracts. We've such a large phase one of our wastewater program that's broken up into 6 contracts. So we'll go into some detail about those 6 contracts. That's an overview of what we want to talk about. But with that said, I'll turn it over to, you can control it. Okay, that's great. We'll turn it over to Lori to talk about the water items.
Okay, so since we're talking about water, I just want to take the opportunity to talk about the service line inventory. EPA is requiring that all water systems put together a water service line inventory, and it's all related to lead in drinking water because of the issue in Flint, Michigan. So we have to put together this inventory. We have some records of what material service lines are made out of, but we don't have every house in we don't have records for every single house. So we have to try and get as much information as we can. So we have sent out in all the bills letters requesting that people go and do an online survey. It shows you how to determine what your material is and then upload some pictures and submit it to us so that we can you know what the service type is. We, to date, have gotten about 200 or so people respond to that out of our 16,500 customers. So we're hoping to get some more people to follow through on that. Once we get a minimal amount, we can start using some computer models to kind of predict what materials are out there. The important thing for Yarmouth is that we've never found a lead service line. Nobody who works here has ever seen one in town. And we don't have any records. We actually have records showing that back in 1931, when the system was created, we bought copper. And there's no reason once you use copper to go back to lead. Lead was used for its malleability, and copper replaced that. So we don't think there's any lead in town, but we do have to do this survey to meet the EPA requirements. So the link is there. There's the tiny URL. It's also has been in your water bill. It would have been probably your last bill before this month. It would be in there as a stuffer, so if you can go back and find that. If not, you can always go to the town website, go to the water page, and I'll give you more information there. So we just ask that people are doing that. But as kind of more of a bigger issue is the PFAS. So I think hopefully at this point everyone has heard about PFAS. It's just a group of substances that was manufactured to be fire resistant, stain resistant, waterproof. It's in your waterproof clothing. It's in firefighters' uniforms, which they recently passed regulation that it's no longer going to be in firefighters' uniforms in Massachusetts. It's used in firefighting foam, and that's the biggest problem on Cape Cod with PFAS. And it's shown to cause various health issues, kind of laid out there on the slide. In Massachusetts DEP started regulating PFAS contaminants in 2021. It's one of the first states to regulate PFAS in drinking water, I should say. And they decided to take 6 of these chemicals, the most common, and it's the sum of those 6 has to be less than 20 parts per trillion. So that went into effect in 2021. The EPA is now coming out with new regulations that are different than Massachusetts regulations, just to confuse us. But this one limits specific compounds, so PFOA and PFOS are the first 2. They're limited to 4 parts per trillion. And one thing just to keep in mind, the detection level here in the lab is 2 parts per trillion. So we're barely getting above what the lab can even detect with some of these chemicals. So it's a very minute amount. And then they also are regulating 3 other contaminants up to 10 parts per trillion, and then this mixture has a hazard index. So all of the chemicals overlap with what's regulated in Massachusetts, but it's just regulated differently. Next one. So the EPA regulations were passed in 2024, but they don't actually go into effect until 2029. There's a monitoring period up until 2027, which being in Massachusetts, where we already had the regulation, we're kind of ahead of the curve on that. And then we need to be meeting those MCLs laid out on that previous chart by 2029. So we're going to go ahead. So in Yarmouth, in drinking water, we started the testing in 2021 as required by Mass DEP. Our first round of tests, everything was good. I thought we were in the clear. But after a few more rounds of testing, we had 3 wells over the limit of 20 parts per trillion. So wells 4 and 5, which are off Long Pond Drive, and well 10, which is off Forest Road. So those have been off. We turned them off as soon as we exceeded the limit, and they've been off since then. And then other than those 3, the only other well that's a little bit of concern would be well 11, which is, it's actually on Kristen Path, but it's also off of Forest Road if you go through the woods. So it's right in that same area. Next slide. So the red circles on there actually show where those 4 wells are. They're in that red circle. So the question is, where did it come from? We don't have the smoking gun, the firefighting training academy. That's not coming towards us. That's off in Barnstable. Luckily not near any of our wells. The airport is, not coming this way. So the we don't have any known industrial sources, so the only kind of potential options would be the landfill, which is in that green oval, and then septic systems. So because PFAS is in so many consumer products, it's likely that it's just going down the drain every day into every septic system and slowly leaching into our drinking water that way. So it's a good plug for wastewater. Keep going. So what have we done so far? Wells 4 and 5 are actually back online as of June. We built a treatment system. Those are just some pictures of it. It's considered a mobile unit. They're not really that mobile, but all of this treatment on the right is inside those containers on the left. And it was kind of put up there. It was something that we could get up and running relatively quickly. That's why we did it that way. And we did that as an emergency through DEP. So it was done relatively quickly. Oops, sorry. For 10 and 11, we're going to treat them both together because they're both off Forest Road. But we need to follow the normal procedure for treatment, adding treatment, which means we have to do a pilot test and then do a full design and then bid it and everything. So we're looking at potentially having that online sometime around 2027. So in the meantime, well 10 is off and well 11, we've reduced use of that as much as we can. Right now in the summer months, we kind of need it, but we'll be cutting that way back by in the fall. That's all I have.
So we do want to take a pause here for a moment before we switch to wastewater in case there's any questions that you might have about water generally or things that Lori covered. If not, I can jump right into wastewater.
Eric, Mary?
Yes, I have a question. How are we doing with water usage this summer?
We're doing pretty well. We're not as high as the drought years. Our kind of level that we get nervous at is 10 million gallons per day, and the highest we've gotten is just under 9 this summer. So we're actually in pretty good shape this summer in terms of
Good.
demands.
Thank you.
Yeah, so no mandatory conservation measures, but I think that when some of those kicked in previous years, as Lori mentioned, the drought, I think people started to think more about water conservation and maybe just doing that generally. And that's certainly helped with the volumes that we've seen are lower.
Yeah, we think that some people changed their sprinkler systems during the drought and haven't changed them back. So that's good news for our meeting our demands.
Charlie? Larry?
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of lawns that are managed a little differently. I know we are. We let the grass grow a little longer and,
Or Browner?
yeah, well, I know, but it seems, at least this summer, holding up pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that may be part of it as well. There was a big push for people to be aware of that.
Right. We did see a drop in demand when we put the ban in, so people did listen, which was really good to see.
Yeah, there's less water running on the streets. You could
Yes,
see it
I
really
know that it's
did work.
frustrating.
I just had one question on the inventory on service of what exactly should people be doing or what do you need from them? I'm not sure I followed what you
Oh,
were
sure.
saying.
We need to know the material.
Right.
So there's a tiny URL that was listed there. If they can go there, it's a survey. It's just you answer a few questions and tell us what material it is. And within the survey, it tells you what to look for to determine what material it is. Kind of goes through step by step. If it's magnetic, it's this. If it's not magnetic, based on the color, it could be different things. So it walks you through what to do and just submit that information, and that's it.
That would be their line within the home, right? But what
Yes.
happens between the home and the street then?
Yeah, so that's
how
what's
they-
coming in. So because we had the proof that we've never had lead with what we've purchased, the EPA is allowing us to consider everything from the main to the house
Okay.
as non-lead.
Okay,
It's
fine.
really what's inside the house that we technically don't own that could be something different.
Okay, I
Yeah,
understand
so
that
it's
now.
it's
Thank
like
you.
right before the meter. That piece of pipe is what we need to look at.
Okay,
And it's usually pretty representative of what's right outside the house
Yeah.
too, so, yeah.
that's fine, thank you.
Just have a question. Lori, when you, on the PFAS, what is the filtering system, without a chemistry lesson, what is going on there? What is the filtering process that's going on?
It's absorbing to the media.
Okay, so it's extracting the
Yep.
PFAS?
Yep.
Okay. And those could be, they look, although they're substantial in size, they're fairly portable and they can be moved around.
Right, yeah, that's the idea, that if we, down the line, we could use it somewhere else.
Terrific.
It wouldn't be moved on a regular basis, but if
No.
that got deactivated for some reason, that there are containers that can be moved.
Exactly right, yeah. Yeah.
And who takes the PFAS from us? Where does it go?
The media, it goes back to the company that we bought it from, or we have to landfill it. It depends, it can be like burned off, the PFAS, so
Okay.
it depends on the media but, yeah, it's either.
I have a question about the testing. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the treatment system, when you test those wells, do you still test the water before treatment as well as the water after treatment?
Yes, for PFAS, we do.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so you have an understanding of the raw water in the well as it's untreated.
Yes, yep.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll
go.
jump right into wastewater. I had mentioned before, if we could just back up one, just to kind of give a little overview. The 6 contracts, so it's a very large $207 million project just for phase 1. In order to accomplish that in reasonable chunks, we've broken that up into 6 different contracts. So they're outlined on the screen. We call contract 1 is in green, that's the treatment facility. And then we've got contract 2, it's in yellow. That's currently being worked by Robert B. Auer. And it's probably not a surprise to anybody here, but we're actually actively out there working. They're not on Route 28 during the summertime, but they are actively working on Main Street, Long Pond. And so there is the work that's going on. The green area, which is contract 3, that's Rivoli Construction. They have taken a break for the summer. They're required not to work in certain areas such as South Shore and Route 28, but because there's so few other areas in that green area for contract 3, they've opted to take the summer off, but they will be starting right after Labor Day, the week after Labor Day, to do some work along Route 28, and then a crew on South Shore as well. And then there's contracts 5 and 6, which are currently in that bidding process, and that's just a general overview. So next slide, please. So contract 1 is the treatment facility. I like these graphics. We've used these a couple of times now because it gives people a visual of what we're talking about. These are generally pretty industrial types of facilities. This happens to be the process building you see here on the right. We did receive the sub bids. It's $106 million is the engineered estimate for the contract, construction contract. So it is a large chunk of our overall project. Sub bids were received on August 6th. We have one remaining sub bid that needs to be rebid, and we're opening those August 27th. And then the general bids had to be pushed off a little bit till September 4th. We do have a deadline of October 31st to award all the remaining contracts. That's beyond the ones I just mentioned. Contracts 2 and 3 current actively being worked, but even the ones that aren't being worked need to be awarded by October 31st. The contract time for this first contract here is approximately 3 years. It's a lengthy process to build the tankage and the components necessary as part of the treatment process. Next slide, please. So here's just a site plan layout of what that looks like. Over on that left-hand side of the screen, you see the current water department building that's existing. Everything kind of to the right of that driveway area is all new. It's all the treatment plant itself. There's 4 infiltration beds on the right-hand side. But if you have been to that water site at 99 Buck Island Road, you look out at a big kind of cleared field, grassed area. That's essentially where all those treatment components are. There's very few trees that need to be removed. It fits nicely within that current grassed area. That current grassed area is a recharge area for treated effluent from the septic facility. So it's already forming that same type of function, but we'll be building in additional treatment and disposal capacity at that site. Next slide, please. Another graphic I think is good to show, just shows what that tankage looks like. Again, the building on the kind of the upper left there is that process building that you saw on a previous slide, but the bulk of the rest of the hard structures are really just tankage and filters that are part of that treatment facility. Next slide, please. So I talked about this a little bit already, but contracts 2 and 3 are the ones that are actively being worked. They will be returning back to Route 28 after Labor Day, actually the September 16th for contract 2, which is Robert B. Auer, and then Rivoli on contract 3 will be starting. At some point, each of those crews, and there's only 2 of those contracts being worked, are going to have 3 crews in each contract. And then with adding 3 more contracts, contracts 4, 5, and 6, there's multiple crews potentially associated with each of those contracts as well. So we're gearing up for a lot of work to be happening in the roads for the collection system for wastewater. We're really just starting the process. We had a good taste of what that looks like in the spring, but that's going to be going on over the next year and a half, and then really ramping up with the other contracts coming on line here shortly. Next slide, please. So this is progress. This is essentially the same presentation we'll be giving the select board in the very near future. And one of their big questions that they'd asked Lori and I to report back on is, how much have you got done of what you're doing? So of contracts 2 and 3, you can see that the green is what's been completed and the blue is what's yet to be done. And the completion is over on the right of the slide. Contracts 2 is approximately 1/3 done, and contract 3 is almost 1/4 done as far as completed work. So that's a good thing. We really were staggering these contracts to try to get as much done in those first 2 contracts before the other ones kick in, but there'll still be a lot of work going on. Next slide, please. So there's a good graphic representation of where work will be happening after Labor Day, where the crews will at least initially be working, 3 of them on Route 28 and 1 down on South Shore Drive. And described that a little bit earlier, but that slide really does a good job of showing kind of where that activity is going to be happening. Next slide, please. So we talked about the remaining contracts. We have tentatively awarded the contract number 4 to Robert B. Auer, and as I mentioned before, contracts 5 and 6 are in that bid process and will be awarded shortly. Next slide, please. So we always like to wrap up with, how can I get more information? Because people always want to know, where can I look? So they can certainly go to the town website, the construction page. It's right there on the front. It's right at the banner. It says construction project, wastewater construction project. That's a great spot to go. We've got information like the detour map you see on the right-hand side. The police department's doing a great job of putting together a graphic that they can send out on social media showing exactly where the detours are, because those will be changing on a regular basis as the work progresses. So they've been doing a great job trying to stay on top of that, working with the multiple contractors and multiple crews within the contracts. It's been a challenging job, but I do have to give them a great deal of credit because they've been able to stay on top of that. Also, if you look at that website that I was mentioning before, they've got the weekly look-ahead schedule. So if you want to see where they're working this week, where they're working next week, and the week after, they're all posted there. Primarily right now, just for the 2 contracts that are actively being worked, but as each contract is being worked, that updated information will be there as well. And an overall schedule for the project is there on that on the website. And if you have any other questions that maybe the website doesn't answer for you, there is a general wastewater mailbox. It's the very last bullet on this slide here, wastewater@yarmouth.ma.us. We'll get you to multiple people that are monitoring that and answering questions. And we do get regular feedback from people on that email, particularly if you want to change the location of your sewer stub or you just have some other general wastewater questions. That's a good source to get those answered. I think that's about it. Yeah, so any questions? Happy to answer those.
I just had one comment on non-wastewater. You mentioned the break today in the main water line there. People listening in, what are the health issues that they should be aware of, if there are any?
Yeah, so customers will just want to, if you have discolored water, just flush your lines until it's clear. The best way to do that is through your bathtub or outside spigot because they don't have screens on them. Just flush till it's clear, and then you're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, that with a significant utility project, there's other utilities that occasionally are in the way or unknown, and it does happen. We have a contractor working out there that's very quick in responding when things like that happen, but it is the nature of construction. Things do happen that you don't expect.
Self-inflicted, that's all.
A lot of unknowns in the water system, unfortunately.
Jeff, I do have a question that we get frequently here in the health department. People come in, ask what contract they're in. We bring them to the computer. We bring up the site, which is very easy to navigate. Then they'll say, "Well, why am I white? Why don't I have a? Why is my house not in any phases or anything like that?" How do we explain that to the residents that are asking?
Sure. Lori came up with this great tool on the website. Yeah, I mean, it's probably what you're referring to. You can put your address in there, and it shows you exactly. It'll zoom in, show you what phase, and
Yep,
it's really good
wonderful.
tool.
It's a very easy tool. We refer people to it always.
Definitely want to plug that because it's a great tool because people are very interested in that. And they see phase one's going on, but when can I be next? Kind of thing is what we're hearing a lot. But what I would say with regards to areas that are not within the current 8 phases is because they're not needed in order to address the nitrogen issues, the limits that we have with regard to what DEP is requiring us to address.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that they won't be sewered for other reasons in the future. I know one of the areas that I'm thinking of right now that's white in the midst of all the other contracts that's going on. We get that question from that area pretty regularly.
That's the area I'm asking
Area
about.
just north of South Shore, but between Seaview and South, the large chunk of that area, it's kind of a triangular shape, is white. And we hear that from people a lot there. I believe that in the future, that's going to be sewered because of other reasons, high groundwater, people wanting to remove that concrete bunker in their front yard, just more practical reasons than nitrogen reasons. But I would say that if you're not in a designated phase, it's because it's not needed to address the nitrogen issue. But as we're hearing with PFAS, other emerging contaminants, who knows, phosphorus might be a focus in the future. There's other reasons that a wastewater solution might be necessary. But our primary focus right now is nitrogen, and those areas that aren't included just aren't needed in order to address the nitrogen.
If I can eliminate one less call to you guys, I'd be more than happy to. So.
We appreciate that.
Just if I could, first of all, thank you both for being here. We so appreciate this. Is very informative. A lot of work going on, generational project, right? A lot of work.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of enthusiasm, I have to tell you. There really is. At our counter, people are actually, and they're excited about it. One of the things that to the board to understand, and they do, when this was going on, with your guidance, both of your help, that the board will actually be one of the final steps in applying for, as the residents apply for connecting permits, right? The decommissioning of their systems right now, right? Their Title V systems, and then connecting. So we're not there yet, but that process will eventually put in place, and we'll guide the residents through that. But they'll be appearing here, maybe for that. I think there's a 2-year. I think possibly is it a 2-year when it becomes available? Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
We've already set some of the rules here for people to connect, so we greatly appreciate that. But there'll be a role going forward, absolutely, because technically the order to require people to connect comes from the Board of Health. You're allowing them to use septic systems now,
Right.
and you have to tell them, well, you have this period where you're not going to be allowed to use your septic system now that sewer is available. So there's an ongoing role for the Board of Health going forward, absolutely.
Right. And actually, we need the flow, right? There's no option not to. We need the flow.
In order to address the nitrogen issue, we have to have everyone connecting as well.
Right. So more to come on that, but that will be coming in front of the board, as this gets built out. But this has been very informative. Appreciate you both being here.
Good.
I'm good, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm good. Anyone else? It was great. It was simple, easy to understand. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Okay, we're up to number 3, and this is 74 Witchwood Road poultry application. And Jay, you just want to,
Do we have it, Barry?
Yeah, that would
Barry,
be me.
great.
I would just say this, that the board has, if you look at the pack that was given to you tonight, not the pack that was delivered on Friday, but the poultry regulations you have in front of you. You may want to reference them.
Is Diana Abreu on Zoom or any of the other neighbors? We do have one neighbor here. Give you a quick little background. 74 Witchwood, new owners, a year and a half, 2 years ago. It was brought to our attention about 6 months ago of a rooster there, right in the midst of all of our changing of the poultry regulations. So I went out and investigated, and they had, and that indeed, a rooster and chickens. Further investigation, come to find out that they didn't have a poultry certificate yet. So through some language barrier and everything, but they don't have a rooster anymore, which is I was very happy with. But going through the regulations and getting the certificate, they have to send out a letter to the abutters asking permission if it's all right. She did do that. 2 of the abutters responded yes. They're very happy. We have one here. That's if you want to speak, Mr. Quirk, you're more than welcome to. The third abutter, when I delivered the letter letting them know that they'll be coming in front of the board, is the reason why they're in front of the board. This one said no. I did deliver her letter. She invited me into her house. Talked to her for a little bit. She said she loves chickens. She's not against chickens, but she's against rodent activity. She mentioned that she has had rodent activity in her yard twice previously before rodents were even there, or before the chickens were even there. I found that kind of odd, and I was like, okay. She took me to her backyard, very well manicured, very well laid out, beautiful lawn, multiple bird feeders, feeds birds, and hand feeds the turkeys and squirrels, throwing seed on the ground. I informed her that's kind of an attraction for rodents itself. So that, in theory, that's my thing on that. I said, just if you want to eliminate them from your yard, I would eliminate the bird feeders, food, water, shelter, eliminate one of the 3. That's kind of the background of this. I wish they were all here. Mr. Quirk, if you want to come up and talk, just introduce yourself, please.
I'm Robert Quirk. I've lived in the town since 1950. You know that, Charlie. So, I lived in a town where we had chickens. We had roosters. We had every kind of livestock there was. Now, all of a sudden, we have a problem with livestock or chickens. My neighbors have been wonderful neighbors. I'm the only abutter that has an open way between my yard and my next-door neighbor. The chickens never come into my yard. These people are wonderful people, okay? They're doing a great job, and, you know, I just think you should give them a license. As far as the rooster goes, I miss the rooster. We grew up with roosters when I was a kid. You know, it was fun, getting people out of bed. But I just have to say this. They're good neighbors, they're working hard, they're family. I see, you know, a whole family over there celebrating on a Friday or Saturday night as a family. We don't have that anymore. And it's wonderful to watch. Maybe it gets a little loud, I don't care. But that's why I'm here, okay? And, you know, I think it's a good thing. And if eggs go any higher, maybe I'll be back in front of you to get my own chickens. How's that?
Sounds good. So we're here tonight to vote on whether she can get a permit for the chickens or not to have chickens.
Can you divulge who the opposing neighbor is, the name?
It's behind her, their back fence.
You have the name? Could you give us?
But they have a full
wondering
fence
if I-
between them.
Ely.
Joyce
Healy.
Healy. Joyce
Yeah.
Healy.
I
They do
thought-
have they have a full fence, wire I looked back there, I didn't see any burrows, any, sign of activity
Yeah.
between the two properties. She has gone through and got the permits for the shed permit from the building department, so setbacks are good.
Where is that shed for the chickens?
It's in the back right corner.
Does that comply with the building?
Yes, you can see it. It's the second page of her application.
Yeah, I saw the shed, but it looked
that's-
pretty close to the,
It's close, but
Okay.
they granted it to her, so
now in relation to that shed, where is Joyce's house?
right behind it,
Okay.
right where it says need approval, so.
Yeah, if it's the same Joyce Healy, then I'm thinking it is. I know her really well. She was a really good client for a long time. I'd be happy to talk to her. If that,
She has dogs, yeah,
she had, yeah.
she has a
was
little schnauzer
wonderful
now,
client. I think she had a little Scotty.
yeah, she still does.
I'd be happy to talk to her.
She got Scotty the box all the time.
Wonderful lady.
She got Scotty the box all the time. I don't complain,
Yeah, yeah,
okay?
sure, but
Those chickens don't bark.
no. But to keep everybody happy, I'd certainly be happy to talk to her.
Yep.
If that's,
And that's 80 Witchwood?
I live at 80 Witchwood Road.
Just one
I
second,
live at
sir.
74. I'm adjacent to them.
No, the question was, it looks
You
like,
said 80, I live at 80 Witchwood Road.
just a second, okay. What I'm asking is, it looks like 80 Witchwood Road, the person didn't sign it. Is that the one? Because
No,
I don't think that would make sense if it's
No.
behind.
80 signed it, 77, Lakefield did not sign.
What I have here is 70 is signed and 77 Lakefield is. That's the only reason I'm trying to,
I think they're just not lined up with the addresses.
is that correct, Gary?
Yes.
'Cause the roads didn't make sense that way. I'm just trying to,
It might have got written on there incorrectly, so,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, she's on a different road,
I wouldn't know.
looks like it. Yeah.
But the two on the left and right facing the
Yeah, I
house
would-
say yes. The one behind
Right,
is the one who did not sign. That's the Miss Seeley who you know, so.
okay. So, any thoughts, anyone? Mary?
Yeah, I just think that the comments about the bird feeders are right on. And the fact that, there's seeds scattered around. I have a friend in South Yarmouth that found a rat, and she's been an avid bird feeder and is cut back now. One of the things that you talked about, food, shelter, and water. Water is a great thing to attract birds, especially in this heat that we have. But I'm guessing that the bird seed on the ground is what is attracting the rat.
Yes, I speak with, probably 3 times a week, I go out to some kind of rodent complaint, and that's usually one of the biggest factors. Unfortunately, it's usually the people that have the nicest, prettiest lawns, and they just like to feed the birds. They're nice to watch, they're pretty. I explained to them that they've lived for millions of years without being fed. If you don't want rats, don't feed the birds. It's kind of a hard conversation to have with an elderly person who likes to watch the birds and the squirrels and the turkeys and stuff, but
To counter that, Barry, I would have to say that we've removed so much of their habitat that it's very difficult for these wild birds to survive
Yeah.
without us helping them a little bit. I mean, unfortunately, I'm guilty of feeding the birds and feeding the bunnies and,
that's your background. I expect it from you, though.
yeah, but I see their point.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think we'd see wild birds if we didn't help them, especially in the winter.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But also, if we could get all the neighbors to agree, then it would be more, I think, more harmonious than to go counter to Joyce. And that's why, like I said, I have a strong feeling that if I spoke to her, she would agree. And I think that might just, it just might smooth things over, if that's agreeable.
fine with that.
Yeah,
It's
it'd
your
be great.
board's decision, so.
If it's the same Joyce Healy, I think it is, which I suspect it is.
Nice little short lady with a Scottish terrier, yep.
Yeah.
Larry, that's not up to the board, that's up to you. I mean, obviously, you want to
happy to
speak
do
with her,
that.
speak with her.
Because I would have trouble approving a permit if a neighbor objected, because they're there before the chickens were there, and now all of a sudden, they've got the chickens, and I don't see anything wrong with the chickens, but if they do, they sort of have a legitimate objection, in my opinion.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Because I'm confused here. Okay?
Yeah.
If those chickens aren't coming into my yard or bothering me because I've got a fence, why would there be any objection?
I totally agree.
But I mean, we're getting ridiculous here. I mean,
I don't disagree with what
this
you're
is just
saying.
simple,
But if we can smooth
they
this
don't go
over.
crazy, they don't do, they're just chickens.
It's,
I totally agree,
unfortunately, it's
Mr.
not
Quirk.
about the chickens, it's the rodents getting into the coop, eating the feed, and then going into neighbors' yards.
I
That's,
think we're gonna lay that apprehension if we explained,
yeah.
educate Joyce about
And
chickens.
I talked to Phil about this. One suggestion, we could, instead of doing a yearly inspection, we could up the inspection to make sure they were, and I'd be willing to do it. Phil said he'd be willing to do it. Up the inspections to make sure they're properly, have the metal containers and properly cleaning and maintaining the coop. If the board would want that also, that'd be an option.
Yeah, there's a minimal chance if chickens are properly housed and fed, that there would be anything left over for rats.
Yeah.
You know, chickens are, they're very efficient at cleaning up whatever's out there that's edible.
Yep.
And there wouldn't be much left for the chickens. And I agree with you that it's probably the feeders, the bird feeders is where is a source of food for the rats. And I think we can just let Joyce know that. It might just make everybody happy.
Okay.
That's sort of what I'm saying.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would you like a motion to table the decision until next meeting after Larry has had a chance to speak with Ms. Healy?
That's what it will come down to right now, yes, whether to postpone it or not. So, yeah, you can make that motion for sure. That'd be helpful.
I move that we table decision on granting this license for chickens until Larry has had a chance to speak with the abutter, who right now is saying or objecting against it.
Second.
Okay.
I think, if I can just add a little bit, I think that when we designed this permitting process the way we did, we did it in the spirit of harmony for the whole neighborhood.
Yes, 100%.
And if we can maintain that, I think that it'll work better for everybody.
Appreciate you going out there talking to her, so.
Appreciate your input, though, Mr. Quirk. You're absolutely, I'm in total agreement with
I
you.
was here for a waste of time.
No, you
But
weren't.
okay.
You weren't.
No,
You
I
actually
am.
gave us a lot of insight.
Oh, this makes no sense to me. This makes no sense. I got bird feeders. I've got possums coming from the other side, okay? And they've come. And coyotes have come through my yard. Everything's come through everybody's yard, okay? And it's a simple thing. It's just, a guy's got a couple of chickens. They get to eat the eggs. They're good people. And all of a sudden, they're fenced off. The only one not fenced off is me, and I'm the only one sitting here. Because those chickens have never come in to my yard. And now we just put it off and put it off and put it off, and it's just, make a decision.
It's interesting you said that, because chickens actually are very relaxing for the people that own them. I was over to a lady in Marston's Mills the other day to look at her setup. She actually has a lounge out in her aviary where she goes out, sits, and she said it's just so therapeutic to be out there watching those chickens.
Yeah, I love it. I love to watch the kids out feeding the chickens.
maybe if we could educate Joyce, she might. I really think she'll agree.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table.
again.
So.
First time I've been
we
here.
We ought to vote, sir, just a second. Liz, you have any more comments? Otherwise, we're going to vote. We've got a long
I wish
agenda.
you would vote. I wish you would vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we can move forward. All in favor of the motion, just raise your hand, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That's 4. Larry? Are you voting for the motion or against the motion? You're voting against the motion? Okay, fine. So it's 4-1, it passes then. And so, thank you, Larry. We'll just try to put some calm in the neighborhood for everyone.
I'll do the best I can. I
Yeah.
think we'll make it happy, make everybody happy if we can.
Okay. Let's move on then. Thank you for coming in.
Oh. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
By all means.
Enlightening.
Okay. Number 4 is the West Nile virus, and it's a reference to our recent positive test sample here.
Sure. So that the board understands and the community, the residents listening, that there is an alert on, education alert on the website, the town home page that provides monitoring on a daily basis. As you know, middle of this month, there was a West Nile virus, a positive mosquito testing. The board was made aware, but now the residents are able to look at a map and see, in fact, what the testing and the monitoring and what risk level Yarmouth is in. The other part is now we've had a human case of EEE, Eastern Equine Encephalitis. Rare but serious. Haven't had a EEE case in Massachusetts in 2020. So not completely unusual, but it's rare, and it's certainly, as you know, Mr. Chairman, the medical risk for EEE significant. The point being is, if you go onto the website, there are precautionary measures. Again, this is transmitted by mosquito bite, and the personal protection measures that can be taken, also the property management that can be taken as far as standing water, dawn and dusk, things of that nature. All the as far as reducing activity during the time when mosquitoes are most active. I would really ask that, so the board is aware, but that those listening would go on to the website. It says just mosquito alert, and you can go on and get some information as to what measures you can be taking and what the risk level is for residents. But that's come out from the state, and we did have a mosquito middle of this month test positive in Yarmouth. And I'm assuming with those measures, and we're one of 6, 7 communities in this area, but I would imagine that with that positive testing, we're going to see more testing onto the Cape to help identify and better inform the community. I think we use the expression to immunize them with good information. So and that's what we're looking to do.
Just so the public knows, the Eastern Equine Encephalitis, I think it's about a third of the people die, actually. It's that serious.
Right.
And it's usually due to severe brain damage. As the West Nile virus, most people don't have any symptoms at all. If they do, generally, it's generalized body aches and fevers, could be some vomiting, but you can also have a risk of a brain infection with that. And that's essentially encephalitis and meningitis. Those are different structures we all have in our brain. So quite serious as well. So encourage people to read about the precautionary measures they can take.
Okay.
Just to be clear, Jay, this positive, was it a mosquito that was tested positive?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, so they do.
I think
They
you
do
said
mosquito.
that.
Yeah, they do mosquito testing. The surveillance happens throughout the Commonwealth, and now that we're seeing it, it comes with this time of year. But residents need to be aware and with heightened vigilance.
They always say they find the water. In other words, puddled water somewhere next to the garage, or whether it's in a tarp, or if the wheelbarrows slipped over even along the edge. They,
Sure.
you know, they've always said they find water,
Any standing water.
stagnant water sitting somewhere.
Cranberry bog ditches are notorious for.
Exactly right, standing water. So, to be aware, and anything you can do to help, just kind of protect on your property, if everyone's taking a look on their
2
property.
weeks. It's standing water for 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks, exactly right. That doesn't take that long, right? So, but encourage those listening to go onto the website, and there's a red alert right at the top of the page. It's right next to where the beach sampling, and that'll be coming to a conclusion fairly soon. The water sampling, so that residents can see that as well. But the West Nile virus and the triple E mosquito surveillance will continue on right through until the first hard frost.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Questions, comments? If not, we'll move on. Okay. So here we are, number 5. This is a flu and COVID clinic. So Barry, looks like
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
you.
The Health Department, the Yarmouth Health Department, along with the VNA, will be hosting a flu and COVID shot clinic this year. Last year, we just did the flu shot. We are incorporating the COVID shot this year at the Yarmouth Senior Center at 528 Forest Road in West Yarmouth. Again, this will be on October 29th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. You can register by scanning the QR code that we have up right there. That also will be, the QR code will be downstairs in the health department. We also have it posted upstairs in the front lobby of the town hall. It will also be at the senior center. It'll also be on the senior center website. You can also get the QR code from the VNA website also. Most insurances do cover this, the flu and COVID shot for yourself. So we had a great turnout last year. It was first year we did it back at the senior center. We got down to a pat. It's going to be very nice. I highly recommend signing up early. Tell a friend, bring a friend or two with you too. So it's a good thing we got going on here. Any more information?
Barry?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you offering both shots at the same time?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Not everyone would probably feel comfortable with QR codes. Perhaps you can just state with the phone number that people should call.
Yeah, the phone number.
People at home, just, that's all.
Yeah.
Right here.
You can call us, the Senior Center, 508-398-2231, extension 1246. We can get you from there. I think the Senior Center number, I don't have the Senior Center number, but it will be up on our webpage, though, for everybody. They can go in and give them a call. The VNA, we'll have all the phone numbers up there listed, so.
And the latest vaccine will be available then by October for the most recent variant of the COVID virus. Right now, it's not available.
Good.
So it should be out certainly in October, if not sooner. Okay. Next on the agenda is tick prevention, and we have Dr. Venezia actually as our speaker this evening. Table's yours.
Okay, so, I mean, there's a plethora of information. I think these handouts that I think Barry supplied are wonderful. And also the Barnstable or Cape Cod, it's the, what is it, the website, I always forget who,
The Cape Cod Cooperative?
yeah, Cooperative Extension
Extension.
Service, right.
Yes.
I think even Barnstable has a great, I think it's Barnstable County Extension Service website, has a really good page on tick diseases, and I think though that these 3 handouts are really complete, so I'm not really, unless you want me to, I'm not gonna go over these.
That's fine.
Because they're excellent.
It will be up on the website also.
Yeah, so rather than take up a lot of time, I'm just going to give you my experience with Lyme, because I love to walk in the woods. I find it very relaxing and therapeutic. And also, I've contracted anaplasma, which is a tick-borne disease. It's carried by the Ixoday deer tick, as is the Lyme disease. The Ixoday tick is a hardy little creature, and it can be difficult to remove. So my suggestion would be to take every precaution you can to not have it attached to your skin, because after it's there a couple of hours, it could be very, very difficult to remove. And also, it's very fragile. If you do try to remove it, it's not uncommon to leave the mouthpieces in the skin. They do burrow very deeply, and unlike the American dog tick, which is the one most of us are familiar with, that's the one that the females tan and engorges, and very much larger than the deer tick. Even a female deer tick with a kind of a copper reddish body, it's much smaller, and she's only about the size, even engorged, of a male American dog tick. So they can be very difficult to detect, and I know I've had a fair number of them on me, and I can tell they're on because I'll get a localized itch. They will set up a local hypersensitivity reaction that you'll sense, and you'll feel like you've got a spot that's itched. It's almost like a mosquito bite. And a lot of times, though, these ticks are embedded somewhere that you can't see on your body, whether it be the back of your neck, they're on your back, just some hard-to-see area. And that's why it's always good to have your partner or somebody close to you take a look to see, in fact, if there is a deer tick embedded. When you go to remove them, one little tip that I've found that does help prevent the mouthpieces from being left in there is to just spray it lightly with them, Deep Woods Off. Just spray the tick lightly with it directly onto the tick, and that'll a lot of times release it. It'll kill it on site, and then it's much more easy to remove. Having said that, if you do go ahead and try to remove it and you leave the mouthpieces, don't panic. The body will reject. These mouthpieces will basically act like a foreign body, and the body will, our immune system will kick out the mouth parts within 2 or 3 days, maybe a week, and you'll just get a scab there. It might be a little itchy. You can apply some over-the-counter triple antibiotic ointment or something like that to it. And that if it's really itchy, you could even get the 1% cortisone, 0.1%, I think it's right over the counter, and apply that just to relieve the itch. The tick disease itself comes from the midgut of the Borrelia, the organism that causes Lyme, or the organism that causes anaplasma, actually live in the midgut of the tick. And when the tick actually embeds and starts a blood meal, it takes a little bit of time for that organism to habituate itself to the blood meal, and it'll migrate to the salivary glands of the tick, and that's where it'll enter the host. And typically, a natural or a typical host for the adult deer tick or Borrelia, or actually Borrelia and Anaplasma, the two organisms that are carried by the deer tick, it takes probably 24 to 48 hours before it can really habituate enough and get into the host. Most of the hosts are larger mammals, and of course people, deer, coyotes, fox, raccoons, other wildlife and our own pet dogs are good sources for the tick to complete its adult life cycle. It'll engorge itself and then drop off. It'll go through a stage where it'll produce eggs and lay the eggs. Then the eggs will hatch into a larval stage, progress to a lymph stage, to a nymph stage. And during those periods, the main host are small mammals like a white-footed mouse or a shrew, a vole, other smaller mammals. We're probably not going to be able to see those if they did get on us. That's probably unlikely that they would get on us. They're really low on the ground. They're right at ground level in the leaves. It's the adult tick that carries the Borrelia, the adult Ixodes tick that carries Borrelia in anaplasma that actually is more likely to bite a human. And like I said, the best prevention or the best way to prevent this disease is to keep the tick off us to begin with. And as I said, I like to walk in the woods, and I hate to give that up. So once I developed anaplasma, and having developed that disease, it's a little bit different than, it's quite a bit different actually than Lyme disease. Although I think, at least in animals, most of the symptoms of these diseases are immune mediated. And I think that's true in people as well, as I recall, although I'm no authority on these diseases in people, but I think most of them are actually the body's immune system gone a little bit haywire, because the location of these organisms are usually in the skin, they're in the connective tissue near the site of the bite, or in a joint capsule. So typically symptoms are related to real stiffness, soreness, pain, inflammation in a single joint. In some cases it can be generalized, but more cases than not, at least the ones I've seen in dogs, are usually localized to a single joint. A lot of times the carpus, which is equivalent to our wrist, or the tarsus, which are equivalent to our ankles. So the dog typically would present with a fever, malaise, lethargy, just inappetence, flu-like symptoms almost, but at the same time a specific lameness. And it's usually, like I said, confined to one joint. Having said all that, the best way to really prevent this is to keep the ticks off us to begin with. And the way I've found that still allows me to walk in the woods, and there's where I walk mostly is a trail off of up by the Bayview, is it Bayview Golf Course, I think? Is that a golf course up off of West Yarmouth Road? There's a bike trail there, and if you park in that parking lot and head down the bike trail, maybe 3/4 of a mile, and you can see that dirt trail that goes off through the woods. And you can follow that trail all the way out through the woods. It parallels the highway. It does it, the people in their cars on the highway can't see you. You can see the highway through the trees, but it's a very relaxing walk, and comes out in the old Higgins Kroll extension where that water, the well field is over there. Used to be the old, where Higgins Kroll used to come out to Willow Street, and now it's gated off. There's no traffic there anymore. So that's a really nice trail that comes out there, and you can walk all the way down to the gate, and then back to where the pump houses are, and get back on the trail and come all the way back out another trail, all the way back out to that bike trail again. So it's about a 3.5 mile walk. It's very relaxing. However, even though it's well trodden, there's still tall grass, there's still underbrush, places that are ideal for ticks. And you have to understand that if you're in an area where there's a lot of tall grass, if there's a lot of undergrowth, it's not a matter of if you'll get ticks, you will get ticks. It's just when you get them. That's why I found these, they're called gators, and they're inexpensive. You can get them online, and they're very easy to put on your lower, they go around your ankles, and they go on, and the ticks will get on these, and they'll burrow into the little, they're vented. You can see they're vented, and the tick will get right in there. And what I'll do maybe every couple of weeks is I'll spray it with this permethrin spray, which you can get at any outdoor shop or hardware store. It's called Sawyer Clothing Gear Intense Trigger Spray. It's permethrin, and I just spray my gators, every 3 weeks, and I've never found a tick since I've been using these gators. They're about $20 online, and they're very effective for keeping these ticks off us. I know that they talk about taking your clothes off and putting them in the dryer, and personally, I'm probably not going to do that. But after having anaplasma, I don't want to get that disease again. So I did go ahead and get this set up, and I've been really, really happy with it. As far as dogs go, you also have to be aware, if you are a dog owner, even if you do take these precautions, dogs will pick up ticks. And as a matter of fact, I think the ticks would much prefer dogs than people. And you're very susceptible to getting ticks on you if the dog sleeps with you or gets on your chair. And the ticks come off the dog. So you want to really take precaution and treat your dog. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. A very effective product are these isoxalaners. They're probably a recent generation insecticide. It's an oral, very safe product that it's given orally either once every month, or there's even a once every 3-month product. The monthly products are called NexGard or Simparica, and they're both the same. They're both isoxalaner, very effective. The other product that's had pretty extensive testing is Bravecto. It's also an isoxalaner. It's given every 3 months. The only issue I have with the Bravecto is I become a little concerned about the 10-week period where the effectiveness starts to wane a little bit. And in a really height of a tick season, you may want to give that again. They're oral, they're palatable, they're very safe. The isoxalaners work on a part of the insect that the part of the insect nervous system that vertebrates don't have. So it's a very safe product for humans. It's very safe for dogs, and it's very effective. It's also a game changer for certain types of mange and certain types of mites that dogs will pick up, and works very well. So the other thing, if you wanted added protection, you could use the Deep Woods Off. If you put it on a baby wipe your dog's legs down with it quickly before a walk. That's effective. Also, there are topical canine insecticides. Advantix is one. Frontline is another. There are several other commercially available ones. The problem with the isoxalaners, they are prescription, so you would have to get a written prescription from your veterinarian. But they're probably the most effective product that's available for for dogs. But just in summary, after having had anaplasma, I do everything I can to prevent reinfection. And reinfection is a real issue. There's really no long-term immunity with these diseases. So they're not like viruses where we'll get a long-standing immunity from vaccines. These organisms, they're very interesting life cycles if you want to read about them. Just as an aside, the Borrelia is an organism that lives intracellularly, but it comes out of the cell. It lives intercellularly for about 28 days, and it comes out of the cell for about 2 days. That's really the only time that it's susceptible to antibiotics. And the antibiotic of choice for both anaplasma and for Lyme disease is doxycycline. Doxycycline, the dose is well described. When I was treated at the emergency room, one little pearl that the ER doc gave me was that in the future, if I did find a tick embedded on me, if I took 200 milligrams of doxy morning and night for 1 day, if I got the tick out, within 24, 48 hours, then I was probably safe as far as getting a tick-borne disease again. And so far, like I said, before I started using these gaiters, I did have a few ticks. And I did that, and I haven't had I test every year for these tick-borne diseases, and I was negative this year. So they do work. When you go to take the Ixoday tick off, the deer tick, it embeds very deeply. So it's much more difficult to take off your skin than a American dog tick, which you can usually grasp close to the head by your fingers and gently pull directly out. With a deer tick, I recommend using a pair of tweezers that get a really good hold on the head of the tick and gently pull straight out. Don't twist, just gently pull that tick out. And most of the time you can get it out. But like I said, once you remove the body of the tick, you're not going to get any of these tick-borne diseases from the mouth parts because the organism is in the intestinal tract of the tick. So that's important to know. Just don't panic. You can put a little antiseptic on it, and eventually your immune system will kick out the tick. They also recommend, if you want to identify the tick and find out whether or not, in fact, it is harboring an organism, there's on the website, on the Extension Service website, there is an address where if you take that tick, put it in a little plastic bag, you date it, they will look at the tick and tell you what organisms, whether it be Ehrlichia, Anaplasma, Lyme disease, Babesia, it's another disease that are transmitted by these ticks, hepatozoan, but the hepatozoan isn't in our area. We don't really have to worry about it. But Rocky Mountain spotted fever is another disease. It's interesting, just as an aside, from a veterinary perspective, when we run routine screening tests for dogs for these tick diseases, we find probably, at least 95% of these tests, when they do come back positive, the owner was completely unaware that the dog was ever sick. Most of these diseases in dogs aren't even picked up by the owner. They're kind of a natural host for it, and I think they're between the organism and the host, they've reached sort of I think the word, it's a symbiotic relationship. As in any well-developed parasitic disease, most of the time, the offending organism, if it's going to survive itself, will have to develop in a host, and they'll have to reach a symbiotic relationship. Otherwise, if this organism killed every host that it invaded, it would kill itself. So over time, most of these infectious organisms in their natural hosts, will reach a symbiotic or commensal relationship. So I think that's important to point out. Humans aren't natural hosts. And I think that's why most of the disease manifestations, at least from what I understand about Lyme and people, it's an immune-mediated disease. Your immune system kind of reacts so aggressively to the organism that it creates its own set of issues. So, and that's what makes it such a devastating disease, basically like any immune-mediated disease in humans or even in dogs. So I think I pretty much covered everything. It's just a matter of trying to keep these ticks off of us to begin with. And it's pretty simple to do if we take these precautions. So I don't know if there's any, I hope I covered everything. But
That was great, very
That
informative.
was very informative.
it's a very interesting field to these tick diseases, and there's volumes written on it. You could just spend forever learning about these different diseases, and they're very intriguing, but obviously not pleasant if you get them. So the object is to prevent it rather than get it. One other thing I didn't say, that the incubation period, once it infects a host, it's usually, if it's going to cause clinical disease, can be long. It can be 4 to 5 weeks and even up to 5 months. So doesn't necessarily mean if you took your vacation on the Cape in August and didn't get sick till January that you don't have Lyme disease, because you very well could have if you're living somewhere else. So it's important to note that.
Very good.
I don't know if there are any questions. I might know the answer. If I don't, I'll find it. I'll find it for you.
All right, so what should the people at home do when they remove the tick? Is the information on the website, the options of if they want to get it identified, what they should do?
Yes, there are like I think it's I brought it up the last meeting. The University of Rhode Island has you can take a picture. Again, we have the QR code nowadays posted out here. You can download it. You can take a picture of it, of the tick itself, and upload it, and it'll tell you what kind of tick it is. Also, we have many of these flyers around. The one bite can change your life. And on the back, it has resources of where to go, what to do, where to send it to, all that good stuff. So, and all this is up on our website too,
Yeah.
which is great information for the public.
I think
Again,
your
like Larry
website
said,
has-
just
Yeah, your website has excellent information.
That's great.
Just some kind of deep woods off. If you're going out, even I put on before my daughter's softball games because they go into the evenings for ticks or mosquitoes. I recommend the public to just take that extra second and just spray a little bit on yourself. The Prethrin is great. We have it in the office. I used it a lot too. So
Yeah, just one disclaimer. I don't think any of us have any investment interests in any of these products that we're recommended.
I have investment interest in humans. So whatever product you use, make sure.
Okay. All right.
Larry, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was great education. Thank you for that.
Larry, thank you.
Well, it's a disease, I know as far as anaplasma goes, and I've met many people with Lyme, those are two diseases you want to avoid. You know, the anaplasma responded very quickly to doxycycline, but the Lyme is a whole different story. And I think it's more because it is an immune mediated. Once that immune system gets triggered, it's difficult to turn it off, I think. The other problem with, the other thing I didn't say is it's not the kind of disease we can pick up with PCR readily because, as I said, they're not free floating in the bloodstream, generally speaking. They're either intracellular, localized to the area where the bite was, or they're in a joint capsule. And those areas are really hard. They're impractical to biopsy for obvious reasons. And so PCR is not the gold standard. Generally, the gold standard for diagnosis, I'm not sure about people, but in dogs, the gold standard is serology, an ELISA or IFA tests that we routinely run, and they're specific, very sensitive, and very specific tests that work very well, but they just indicate exposure. They don't indicate actual infection as PCR would. Like, for example, the COVID test with PCR. So, it's a type of organism that's not readily amenable to PCR testing. Makes it more difficult.
Okay, number 17 on the agenda is Overdose Awareness Day.
Sure, I'll take that. You've probably seen in the front of the town hall purple flags. That is sadly it's to commemorate individuals who have overdosed or succumbed to substance abuse, and it's a sad tribute, but it's an important one. I don't know if you've ever been to it on the 31st of this month, Saturday, at Smugglers Beach. It will be commemorated again. Dawn has been here in the past and had given that presentation, but this is on our website as well. And it's International Overdose Awareness Day. It's a time for individuals and families to come together. They bring pictures and portraits of their loved ones. They tell stories. It's more than even just raising awareness. There's probably a half a dozen or more resource tables. YSAC is there, who actually delivers, and they do a lot of the substance and the opioid dollars. They oversee that. It is really quite a moving and touching and tribute for individuals who have who've been affected and succumbed to substance abuse and the disease of substance abuse. And if you get a chance to go, it's really it's sad, but it's really something for the families to come together. And there's a lot of sharing of memories, and hopefully it is more than just awareness. It actually delivers some prevention as well. And that'll be the 31st at Smugglers Beach. I believe the time is 5 o'clock. It is 5 o'clock. And that's on our website as well. But if you go by the town hall, and I'm sure you have, you've seen the purple flags that are flying there. It's just a remembrance of commemorate each of the individuals from Yarmouth who have succumbed to substance abuse.
I had a mother last year come and give a very touching presentation, I remember.
That's it. That's Dawn. She puts this on each year. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Next is the house that was condemned over in 14 Albion. So Barry, we'll just have an update from you.
Want to do number 8 first, or do you want me to move to number 9?
Oh, okay.
Both of
Yeah,
them, so.
you're absolutely right. There's housing update. I'm not
So,
sure what that is, but let's
Just
find
a
out.
quick overview of, so the town of Yarmouth adopted a new program, way to like a registration program, permitting program called OpenGov, which was introduced in late 2023. So with our housing program, 2024 was our first year of running with the new program. We discovered many great features of this program, running new reports, running great, just being able to track mass emails to the rental programs and stuff like that. We've also found some parts that we need to be tweaked in 2025 to help us streamline the housing program here in Yarmouth. All rental registrations are required for all long-term, short-term, and seasonal rentals here in the town of Yarmouth. We are going to be getting a lot more of those coming in soon. Inspections are conducted to ensure all properties meet Mass Code CRM 105 for minimum standards of living. These inspections also act as a third-party objective. If something happens in the home, an insurance company asks about us, we can properly say that the home was inspected on X date and the home was safe to be occupied. If no rental certification is issued, sometimes insurance agencies might not cover certain situations if there is an accident in the home. That's why another reason we encourage people to register with us. Also, with this new program, all rental reminders will be going out November 1st to remind owners to start getting ready to re-register for January 1st for the 2025 year rental season and year. So it's a great program. It was what we didn't have much to track before, but now with this new software, we are tracking our rental programs, and it's a great way to show results of what we're doing in the health department. So
that's the main goal, is to have the ability to track this that has been taking place?
yeah, it's very difficult before without tracking. It was hard to regulate people on how, if they registered, if they got their permits, when was the last time they were inspected. It was a lot of paperwork. In our office, we have hundreds of feet of file cabinets, and to go to property 123 Main Street, it would be research. Now with the new program, OpenGov, we can click on it, we can see the rental registrations, when it was inspected, how many people are allowed. If we get complaints from neighbors, all that is at our fingertips right now. And with the program, we are streamlining it and making it even more simple for our staff to work it for the upcoming season. So it's a very nice program to have.
Great.
Barry, how's the compliance?
Very good. We're getting it compared to most previous years. We're getting there. We still have. It's very hard to always get 100% compliance, because you're working with homeowners and tenants sometimes to get back and forth. One example, we have a homeowner who's in Ukraine fighting, and we just can't communicate with them. So there's always, we're never going to get 100%, but we're tracking it now, and we're getting really good numbers. And we know who we need to talk to and we have all their information now. When you register with OpenGov, we now have phone numbers, we have emails, we have contact information, which is all very nice. So
Now, do police
That's good.
departments have access to this information?
I don't think they're on OpenGov, but they have their own access to this stuff. We work closely with the police departments and the fire departments and stuff like that. They'll call us, hey, we just went to an emergency at 123 Main Street. We notice that it's a rental. Are they registered? Boom, click, yes or no. Then we follow forward with that. So it's a great program. It's helping us out a lot. And just as the first year of any other programs, it always takes a little bit to get out the kinks, and we're working them out right now. So
If I could, Barry, thank you on that. This gives us data, right? There's over 3,200 actually rentals in the town of Yarmouth, right? We don't know if we get them all. It's a volunteer program, but we do also, we check with, social media, rental, Verbo, and all those different VRBO to see if renting, it's a bylaw, it's required, but 3,200, it's a lot for 2 inspectors to do, but it allows the health department and the town to monitor the housing stock, not only for the homeowner, but also for the tenant. There are seasonal rentals and there are annual rentals. And we come in to make sure that the housing is meeting the minimum standards for human habitation. And as Barry said, it's difficult, it's a challenge. There's a lot of scheduling, a lot of different schedule, the tenant schedule, availability, might have to go back multiple times to correct. It's not in any way punitive. It allows the health department to monitor the housing stock. Like I say, we work closely with the building department as well. We're catching as far as electrical and plumbing, midnight plumbing that goes on and things that aren't being permitted properly. Well, that's a concern. As Barry talked about, there can be insurance concerns there, safety concerns, life and safety, smoke detectors. We work with the fire department on a regular basis. So it's a good program. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's a lot of work for two inspectors when you think of 3,200. It's quite a bit, but it's a great program, and Barry really he rides point on that program, and it's come a long way, so hats off to Barry.
I run reports every morning to see where they're at, make sure they're on track and everything, so it's nice to, instead of just going through paperwork and Excel sheets, it's at my fingertips. It's nice, so. So next year I'll be able to give you even more perfect information, so. Yes, Mary.
That must have been a lot of data to enter, rather.
Again, it's the first year, so it was a lot for the front office staff, the ladies, and the housing department. Same with the QR codes. A lot of our population isn't very friendly or familiar with computers, so they'd still mail it in. What they would have to do with our housing inspectors, with the front office girls, they would have to manually input all the information. So that took a long time. But now that all their information is in there after this first year, a lot more simple, a lot more streamlined for the coming up years. We'll always get the people that want to do paper applications and bring them in just to say hi to us. We always like to see those people too, so.
And Barry,
Yes, ma'am.
is that a typical Cape Cod home there that you've got up on the screen?
That's my summer house. The health department does me very well, so.
Mary, you don't see what the view is of, though,
Yeah.
okay?
Just kidding.
Nah, I wish it was.
That's a great question.
So, and then on to, do me do that? I'll move on
Go for it.
to Albion. So, as we remember, a couple months ago, we had a very sad situation over at 14 Albion. There's some pictures. The first three are the before, and then the last ones are after. There's been a major cleanup in progress at this site, has been done. As you can see from the before and after photos, all the cars are gone. Majority of the rubbish has been removed from the property. There is just a little bit of rubbish back behind where the four-wheeler was. When I was out there 2 days ago, the front deck had been completed, very nicely done, and both back decks have been completed. And all permits have been pulled for all the work too, which has made me happy. So they're doing all that. There's still work to be completed on the inside. They have removed and replaced all the drywall. The health department will continue to monitor the progress on the inside. For the work I have seen going on, this is going to be a very nice unit that's going to be put back into the inventory for the Yarmouth rental program. We go back to doing inspections, like I was saying earlier. This is going to be a nice unit for a family to have. It's a big unit. It's at the end of a dead-end street, so nice, quiet. There's going to be a lucky family getting into it. The homeowners have worked greatly with us. Jay's in contact with her all the time, in contact with the carpenters and those people. So if everybody in town could make it as nice as this, we'd have a very nice community. So it looks good over there.
I'm sure the people in the attached unit must be pretty happy.
We never wanted to reach to this level. It's sad. To reach a condemnation is a serious concern. We do everything we can to work prior to, to avoid that, but it reached that point. Homeowner, fortunately, was cooperative. The board was supportive. We've worked now for this in a very short amount of time. At probably about 6-week period, this has turned around 180. It is now probably several weeks away from coming back online, as Barry said. So that's a good story. There's a lot happened there. But you saw the original pictures. I was in that at the beginning with police department. There were raids, there were warrants that were out, and it just fell into disarray to the point of condemnation. The board took the bold step to condemn it, and look what has happened now. It's turned back around, so that's what we are. We saw you should see the follow-up.
Okay. You done?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Okay. So next, we have a set of minutes to accept or not, and that looks like we have 4. We have May 20th, June 3rd, June 17th, and July 15th. So to make it easier, why don't we just go one at a time? If anyone has any comments, any edits, whatever, and then perhaps we can just take one vote on all 4 sets of minutes. So, anything on May 20th? Anyone wants to comment, change, alter? Okay. How about June 3rd? Anything in the minutes anyone picked up on? Needs to be addressed? Okay, on to June 17th. I had one there on page 2, and that was about the Eversource vegetation control. Eric, you can correct me if I need to be, and that you had made a point about the timing of the herbicide applications, and I'm not sure that was in the minutes. I don't know if you recall that or not. I think the letter was written, we sent a letter actually referencing you and your background, and we had done the same with Larry and his comments about wildlife. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I did make mention that, a late season application would allow for plants to translocate the herbicide to the root zone more effectively, providing more effective control, something along those lines.
Right. We didn't get a very good response from the people who were applying it, but, so perhaps we can just add that, make that one edit,
Right, well, we can do that.
okay? We can go over that afterward if you want. Okay, it was pretty cryptic, I know. And then it would be July 15th. Anyone? Okay, none? Okay, so we just need a motion on the 4 sets of minutes, whether we want to accept them or not. If anyone would do that, I'd appreciate it.
I move that we accept the minutes of the Board of Health for May 20th, June 3rd, June 17th, and July 15th, 2024.
Mary, thank you. Anyone second that?
I second it.
Great. Don, any further discussion? Seeing there are none, all in favor of accepting minutes, just raise your eye and say aye. Aye, okay.
I will say this, I apologize to the board. With the transition from Erica to Mo, there was a backlog. We don't expect that you're going to be needing to approve 4 at a time. We'll do minutes on a weekly, on a monthly, a meeting basis, where you get a chance to look at each meeting minute. So this is a rarity, and we apologize, a little transition in personnel. So know that's not how this should run. There's public meeting laws that need to be met, and we will meet that obligation.
Okay, yeah. All good. New and old business.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out that I think we're pretty fortunate in Yarmouth to be able to have a say in what takes place in our neighborhoods and to be informed of what's taking place. And anyone who's concerned with an application has just as much of a right to be concerned with it as does someone who's in support of it. So I just wanted to point that out. I think the health department goes above and beyond to try to do right by all people in town. So I just want to remind all parties of that.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
I have some items, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Okay.
In terms of new business, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health sent out a clinical advisory regarding pertussis, that it has now reached pre-pandemic levels amongst adolescents particularly. So just as a reminder that everybody should be up to date with their DTaP if they're young people, and for us older people, the Tdap vaccine against pertussis. The second old item is the paint stewardship. Did that bill get, the town administrator, did he write to support that bill? And then the second part of my old business is, do we have some numbers for overdoses in Yarmouth for this past year.
Mary, thank you on that. Let me tell you that I did appear then for the, in front of the selectmen with the Assistant Deputy Director Roby, and the Select Board voted in the affirmative to sign on in support of the paint stewardship program. Where that has gone, I don't know, but yes, it has left with both the Board of Health's approval and the Select Board's approval, and then it moves on to the state, the lawmakers. I'm not sure where up on Beacon Hill that stands right now, but it had the blessing of both, like I said, both boards, Select Board and Board of Health. I can get you those numbers. I don't have the updated numbers. I can check with WISAC, the Yarmouth Substance Abuse Committee, on what the most updated numbers are on overdose. I don't have those in front of me.
The Yarmouth Police have been the ones in the past to provide those numbers, so that's another source also.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and they report, actually, the police and fire, fatal and non-fatal overdoses. It happens at every meeting. So that's when I say me, that's who I'd be checking. They come in through the clerk's office, and I get those numbers as well, but that's who does report to us through the WISAC committee. And every meeting, every monthly meeting, they give an update on that. So that's who I would be referencing to get that information, and I'll have that for you.
Thank you.
In reference to the pertussis spike you mentioned, Mary, just so people aware of it, the classic sign is severe coughing that's prolonged. And that vaccine is given along with the tetanus at the same time, and generally the recommendation for beyond just real young childhood is every 10 years is a minimum, just so people know that. There's a version also where you can get a diphtheria included with the tetanus and pertussis. So pretty basic medicine, though. What other new and old business do we have?
Mr. Chairman, do you mind?
Yeah.
One last thing, it's a good deed. I'm just going to read a quick little thing I wrote out. Recently, the health department was called out to a home here in Yarmouth, a call from the police department and DCF to assist them at a home. It was found that the family was in need of several services due to multiple factors. Working closely with the Yarmouth Police Department and the Health Department, we were able to come up with some great solutions for the family. The Yarmouth Police Department, one of the agents, arranged for new furniture to be donated to the home, and a new stove was donated to the home. The Health Department was also able to gain, through generous donations from many businesses in town, 4 commercial air purifiers, 1 oscillating fan, 2 window fans. The AC in the home is not working, so it's extremely warm in the home. Air circulation was very important to us. A new refrigerator was also donated, and money for a permit to install a new stove for the inside of the home was also donated from a local business. The outside of the home and the yard, a local company donated 2 10-yard dumpsters, which have been emptied 9 times so far. They will be continued to be emptied as needed basis for the next 3 fill-ups. Between the local Yarmouth Police Department and local fire department, 17 volunteers of family and children also showed up with their families to help clean up the yard. They brought power tools, rakes, even a bobcat to help clean up the yard. It was a very hot day that day. A local grocery store donated a case of Gatorade and 2 cases of water for the volunteers, and a local pizza parlor also donated 6 pieces to the volunteers that day also. Major work was accomplished through the great hearts of the people of Yarmouth to help the family do these projects they physically, financially, and timely could not have done on their own. The local dumpster company will continue to swap out the dumpster a couple more times while the family discards items from the inside of their home. The Yarmouth Police Department, Fire Department, Health Department did not solve all their problems, but I feel we made a major difference in this family's life doing this. So,
Impressive, wow.
Great.
Wow, yeah.
Something positive, it's always nice to hear.
Yeah, the board needs to know, and Barry's being very humble in this, but he took this personally, and he led that information. He did that along with Officer Erica Weinberg from the police department. Backpacks were given, food cards were given. This is a family, we're not identifying, but they were struggling. Both were disabled children. They've got multiple complications throughout that family, 2 with serious, of the 5 children, 2 with very serious medical concerns. and they were struggling, and they were actually just, it was just overwhelmed. And Barry led this compassionate charge and really brought together in a very short amount of time. This all happened in a couple of weeks. And they really have, they can see the light. There's some optimism there. And more than anything, that people cared. To have, like I said, the police and fire department came out in force and cleaning up and helping. And that really, when you see that, someone really, that the community really cares. And that was really something. But kudos are to Barry Lewis. He did a great job on that. So great job, Barry.
Thank you, Jeff.
Great.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you. Part of the job.
Over and above. It's great.
On, I guess, two things. One, with school opening up soon, maybe sometime during September, we get an update on vaccination rates for the school. That would be a good idea, I think. And the other is, it's been a pretty hot summer, really hot summer, and maybe we could put on the agenda talking about possible heat alerts or something that we should address. And I would talking about people at risk for heat exhaustion or heat stroke, what are some of the precautions they can take, and if it's severe enough, whether there needs to be an alert sent out. There are people who, many of us can afford and have air conditioning. There are people certainly in town who cannot. And many are even, working outside during the summer. It's been difficult, really difficult. So let's just, for discussion purposes, let's put that on the agenda. We also need to schedule our next meeting as well.
The first Monday would be Labor Day, so that is not available to us, but September 16th would be the third Monday, if that works for the board.
16th is fine. I know for the 30th I won't be available, but that doesn't mean we can't have a meeting, so. But certainly 16th, everyone else?
September 16th?
We have a few people who can make that and we'll have a quorum? Yeah, that looks good.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, not, we need one more motion. If anyone wants to leave, that is.
Motion that we adjourn.
There we go.
How about a second? Someone.
That's it.
Credit for that. Second, who?
I did.
Eric, you got it. You got it. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye, this meeting is
Aye.
adjourned, I'm sure. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, board.